A Brooklyn Love Story. Part 1. The streets of Brooklyn buzzed with life as the early summer sun cast a warm glow over the city. Jackson St. Louis, a man in his early 30s, found himself back in the neighborhood where he spent his junior high school years. He was visiting family for the holiday weekend. The familiar sights and sounds of Brooklyn brought back a rush of memories. As Jackson strolled down the bustling streets, he couldn't help but notice the changes that had taken place over the years. Yet, amidst the evolving landscape, he still felt a deep connection to the place where he grew up. Nostalgia tugged at his heart as he passed by the school he attended, the corner store where he used to buy candy, and the park where he spent countless afternoons with friends. Little did Jackson know, fate had a surprise in store for him that weekend. As he entered a quaint cafe for a cup of coffee, his eyes met those of a woman who seemed strangely familiar. It took a moment for recognition to dawn on him, and then it hit him like a wave of nostalgia. Romy Sanjay, a girl he had known from junior high school. Romy, now a confident and radiant woman, sat alone at a corner table, engrossed in a book. Jackson hesitated for a moment before gathering the courage to approach her. Memories of their shared past flooded back. He couldn't believe the serendipity of their reunion. "Romy?" he asked tentatively. She looked up, and a spark of recognition lit up her eyes. Jax. A childhood name he hasn't heard quite some time. A smile broke across both of their faces as they embraced, the years melting away in an instant. They reminisced about the old days, sharing stories of their teenage adventures and the innocence of their youth. Over cups of coffee and laughter, they discovered the common threads that had woven through their lives, even after all this time. The weekend stretched out before them, and with each passing moment, Jackson and Romy found themselves drawn to one another. They explored the vibrant streets of Brooklyn together, revisiting places that held sentimental value and creating new memories in the process. As they walked through the Brooklyn Botanic Garden, the fragrant blooms and lush greenery provided the backdrop to their growing connection. Conversations flowed effortlessly, and the chemistry between them was undeniable. It was as if the years apart had only served to bring them closer together. A Brooklyn Love Story. Part 2. One evening, as the sun dipped below the Brooklyn skyline, casting hues of orange and pink across the horizon, Jackson and Romy found themselves on the iconic Brooklyn Bridge. The city lights glittered in the distance, and a gentle breeze swept through the air. Under the twinkling lights of the bridge, Jackson looked into Romy's eyes and realized that he was falling for her all over again. The weekend had become a love story unfolding in the heart of Brooklyn. Their connection was like a melody, the rhythm of their laughter blending seamlessly with the city's vibrant pulse. As the holiday weekend came to an end, Jackson and Romy faced the inevitable reality of parting ways once more. However, this time, it was different. The spark that had reignited in Brooklyn was not something they were willing to let go of. Promises were made, and plans were set in motion for a future that would see them overcoming the distance between their current lives. Jackson and Romy were determined to build something special, grounded in the foundation of their shared history and the magical weekend that brought them back together. As they said their goodbyes, standing on a street corner in Brooklyn, Jackson held Romy's hand and whispered, "This is just the beginning." With the promise of tomorrow lingering in the air, Jackson walked away, leaving Brooklyn behind once more. However, this time, his heart carried the warmth of newfound love and the memories of a weekend that changed everything. Romy stood on the familiar streets, watching him go, knowing that destiny had intervened, rekindling a love that had been waiting to blossom in the heart of their shared hometown. Like and subscribe, Part 3 coming soon. Thanks for listening. A Brooklyn Love Story. Part 3. In the days that followed, Jackson and Romy maintained a constant connection, bridging the physical gap with phone calls, video chats, and shared playlists. The distance only seemed to strengthen their bond, as they discovered the intricacies of each other's lives, dreams, and aspirations. Jackson's visits to Brooklyn became more frequent, and each time, the city served as the backdrop to their evolving love story. They explored hidden gems, uncovered new favorite spots, and created a tapestry of shared experiences against the dynamic canvas of Brooklyn's streets. One summer day, Jackson took Romy to the rooftop of a charming brownstone overlooking the city. The sun dipped below the skyline, casting a warm glow over the buildings. Against the backdrop of the setting sun, Jackson took Romy's hand and asked, "Will you make new memories with me, not just in Brooklyn, but everywhere life takes us?" With tears of joy glistening in her eyes, Romy nodded, and they sealed their commitment with a kiss that felt like a promise for a future filled with love and adventure. As the seasons changed, so did their lives. Jackson and Romy navigated the challenges and joys of a long-distance relationship, finding solace in the knowledge that they were building something meaningful. Despite the miles between them, Brooklyn became a symbol of their love, a place where their story began and continued to flourish. One crisp autumn day, Jackson surprised Romy with a visit to the Brooklyn Bridge, the site of their magical weekend. The bridge, adorned with the colors of fall, echoed with the sounds of their laughter as they walked hand in hand. Jackson dropped to one knee, producing a small velvet box. "Romy, will you make Brooklyn our forever and marry me?" he asked, his eyes filled with love. Overwhelmed with emotion, Romy nodded, and Jackson slipped a beautiful ring onto her finger. The bridge, with its timeless charm, bore witness to a moment that marked the next chapter of their love story. As winter blanketed the city in a quiet hush, Jackson and Romy made plans for their future together. They decided to make Brooklyn their home, a place where the echoes of their past intertwined with the promise of their future. Amidst the snow-covered streets, they found a cozy brownstone that would witness the chapters of their life unfolding. The wedding took place in the heart of Brooklyn, surrounded by the people who had been part of their individual journeys and the love that had brought them back together. The ceremony was held in a charming garden, the air filled with the sweet scent of blossoms and the shared joy of those who celebrated their union. As Jackson and Romy danced under the twinkling lights, surrounded by the familiar sights of Brooklyn, they realized that their love had come full circle. The journey that began with a chance encounter in a cafe had evolved into a lifelong commitment, and Brooklyn had been the silent witness to their love story, from its rekindling to the grand celebration. Years passed, and Jackson and Romy continued to build a life filled with love, laughter, and the cherished memories of their shared hometown. Brooklyn, with its timeless charm and ever-changing landscape, remained the backdrop to their unfolding story. Their love, born and nurtured in the heart of Brooklyn, proved that sometimes the most beautiful love stories are the ones that come full circle, guided by fate, built on shared history, and destined to last a lifetime. And as they walked through the streets of Brooklyn hand in hand, Jackson and Romy knew that their love story was a testament to the magic that can happen when two hearts find each other in the place where it all began. The streets of Brooklyn. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe. Part 4 coming soon. A Brooklyn Love Story, Part 4. In the heart of Brooklyn, the lives of Jackson and Romy were intertwined with the pulse of the city. Their brownstone home stood as a testament to their shared experiences and the deep connections they fostered within the vibrant community. Through the years, their marriage blossomed into a legacy that inspired those around them, showcasing the magic of love and resilience. As active members of their community, Jackson and Romy immersed themselves in local events and initiatives dedicated to preserving Brooklyn's unique charm. Their shared dream of owning a bookstore materialized one summer evening on the iconic Brooklyn Bridge, where Jackson surprised Romy with the symbolic purchase, marking a new chapter in their lives. The bookstore quickly became a hub for book lovers, uniting the neighborhood through literary events and readings. However, fate had its own plans. While tending to customers at the bookstore, Jackson remained unaware of the sudden re-entry of Romy's past into their present. As Romy perused the shelves of her bookstore one quiet afternoon, a familiar song began to play through the store's speakers. The smooth, nostalgic tones of "Summer Rain" by Carl Thomas filled the air, transporting her back to her college days at St. John's University. The melody brought a rush of memories, and Romy felt a pang of longing for a time she thought she had left behind. As the song played, she was suddenly overwhelmed by a scent she hadn't encountered in years. Versace Dreamer, a men's cologne she believed was discontinued. The fragrance mingled with the music, creating a potent cocktail of nostalgia that left her feeling as though she were in a dream state. The memories were so vivid that she could almost see the past unfolding before her eyes. She shook her head, trying to dispel the images and sensations that were making her feel disoriented. "I need to get off this ladder," Romy muttered to herself. She felt a pang of guilt, as if these memories were a form of betrayal to her husband, Jackson, who was busy attending to clients across the store. The music grew louder, the scent stronger, and Romy felt herself slipping into the past. As she took her last step down, her foot missed the rung, and she felt herself falling. But instead of hitting the ground, she was caught by a pair of strong arms. Looking up, she saw a face she hadn't seen in years. It was Eli Rivers, a former lover from her days at St. John's. His piercing blue eyes and disarming smile brought a tidal wave of emotions crashing over her. "Eli?" she whispered, hardly believing her eyes. Eli possessed a magnetic charm that drew people to him effortlessly. Standing tall with a lean, athletic build, African-American male with caramel-color skin tones, Eli carried himself with a graceful ease, his movements fluid and purposeful. His style was effortlessly cool, often seen in well-fitted suits that accentuated his impeccable taste. Yet, there was an approachable quality to him, a hint of vulnerability beneath his composed exterior that made him all the more captivating. Eli smiled, his expression a mix of surprise and recognition. Eli flashed a charming smile. "Well, hello there. Miss Sanjay, I wasn't expecting to catch you here." Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe. Part 5 coming soon.
Part 5.
The bookstore around them seemed to fade as memories of their past flooded Romy's mind. She remembered the romantic evenings they had shared, the passionate debates over literature, and the spontaneous adventures throughout Queens. They had spent countless hours in Flushing Meadows Corona Park, watched planes take off from LaGuardia, and explored the culinary delights of Jackson Heights and Astoria. Every moment with Eli had been filled with a sense of discovery and youthful exuberance. Their connection had been deep, built on a shared love of books and dreams of the future. They would ride the 7 train, the International Express, hopping off at random stops to immerse themselves in different cultures. Their weekends were filled with trips to Manhattan, where they wandered through Central Park, visited the Met, and got lost in the streets of the West Village. Each day with Eli was an adventure, and Romy had never felt more alive. But as graduation approached, life had pulled them in different directions. Eli moved to California for a job, while Romy stayed in New York for graduate school. Despite their efforts to maintain their relationship, the distance proved too great, and they eventually drifted apart. The final days of their relationship had been bittersweet, filled with long talks and heartfelt promises that they couldn't keep. Now, standing before Eli in the bookstore, those old feelings surged back to the surface. Romy felt a mix of guilt and longing. She was torn between the life she had built with Jackson and the intense emotions that Eli's presence stirred within her. The bookstore, once a sanctuary of love and shared dreams, now felt like a battleground for her conflicting feelings. "Romy," Eli said softly, his eyes searching hers. "I've missed you. Before Romy could respond, Jackson called out to her from across the store. She turned to see him smiling, oblivious to the emotional storm brewing within her. She knew she needed to make a choice, but her heart was caught between the past and the present. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the bookstore, Romy stood at a crossroads. The music faded, but the scent of Versace Dreamer lingered, a reminder of a love that had never fully died. She had to decide whether to embrace the memories and emotions Eli had stirred, or to remain faithful to the life and love she had built with Jackson. Romy took a deep breath, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts and feelings. She knew that whatever choice she made, it would shape the rest of her life. As she looked between Eli and Jackson, she realized that her story was far from over. The next chapter was just beginning, and only time would tell where it would lead her.
Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe. Part 6 coming soon.